Let's bring in Andy McCarthy, former assistant U.S. attorney and Fox News contributor. Great to have you with us today, Andy. So it's interesting. Judge Cannon made some interesting points that came out of the courtroom. One of them was, she said, is this motion premature? Are you bringing this before me, before we hear anything about immunity from the Supreme Court? It really feels like the motivation for this was hot on the heels of what everyone just watched with Robert Hur and how he made his decision in a similar case against the current president.
Yeah, it's a lot to sort out, Martha, but I think the thing is the immunity issue before the Supreme Court involves official actions of the president during the time of his presidency. The charges in Jack Smith's Florida indictment involve documents that President Trump was able to get because he was president, but the actions are in his post-presidency, the illegal or the allegedly illegal retention and the obstruction of the grand jury investigation. So they're different issues, but it sounds like what Judge Cannon is homing in on is that the Trump defense has been making claims all along about the former president's handling of these documents, including suggesting that he may have declassified a number of them. That's the kind of thing a judge really can't make a decision about without having taken some testimony. And what this motion was about today was to try to get the case kicked out on the papers, on the legal arguments. And it sounds like she's leaning against that. She wants to hear some evidence.
So what I'm hearing from you is that it doesn't sound as if the immunity issue is something that she is leaning on or waiting for. It sounds from what she said as though she will treat this case on the merits on its own. She doesn't feel the need to rush it based on anything, and that one of the determinations that will be fleshed out in the course of this trial, we assume, and based on what you just said, is whether or not he designated any of these documents as personal records. And his team says that they do have the authority to have done that. The special counsel's team says that he could have, that Trump himself said he could have declassified the documents while he was president, but he didn't, and now he can't, according to some of this testimony. We heard a lot about personal records and Biden assuming that they were all his. How do you think that will hold up in this case for the former President Trump, Andy?
Yeah, where Biden made that argument, Martha, was mostly about the notes that he had taken about classified documents. The crux of the case against Trump are the actual agency records, which simply aren't covered by the Presidential Records Act. The Presidential Records Act is really meant to sort out the information that is generated by a White House so that you can figure out what is government property and what is the president's personal property. Most of what's at issue in the case is actually agency documents, specifically intelligence reporting from our intelligence agencies, which really aren't meant to be covered by the Presidential Records Act. The former president and his counsel have a theory of why that should be covered, and it sounds to me like Judge Cannon is saying she wants to hear some evidence to support what their arguments are.
All right, I'm going to swing you over to the hush money case, Andy, and I want to read you a headline that we just got a few moments ago. And just to remind everybody at home, this is the New York case that was brought in the matter around Stormy Daniels and the check that was given to her, which was seen as hush money payment, that was funneled as a legal payment. And that is the question here, whether or not the hush money was disguised as a legal payment. Now, what we're just learning is that the Manhattan prosecutors, this is Alvin Bragg's case, is now seeking a 30-day delay of this trial, which was supposed to be the first one. It's supposed to start on March 25th here in New York, so it would have been the very first one to go to trial. The prosecutors who brought the case asked for a 30-day delay, a startling development in this first prosecution based on some new material that they want time to deal with. Andy, your reaction to that as you hear it right now?
Yeah, very interesting. It sounds like they apparently have come upon some factual evidence, we presume. I thought that there'd be some litigation over the fact that at the 11th hour, former President Trump is trying to extend his immunity argument to the Manhattan case as well. And he's asked for a delay on the basis of that after getting some discovery about some of what Bragg planned to do at the trial, which he thinks intersects with his authority while he was president. But this doesn't sound like that. This sounds like they actually have some factual information that's come to their attention that they have to sort out and decide what effect it has on the case. Be interesting to see what Judge Merchan does.
Indeed. And all of these delays, I think it's fair to say, work for the former president. He wants to see these pushed as close to or after the election in every way possible. It says, just to fill in you and our viewers before we move on here, it says that this is so that the defense can review a new batch of records. It only recently obtained these records from federal prosecutors who years ago investigated the same hush money payments at the center of the case. So it seems weird that they wouldn't have had all of the information related to that former case, and why that would be suddenly discovered at this stage of the game is a question that we'll leave for another day as we get more information on it. But Andy, thank you very much. Always good to have you with us.
Thanks, Martha.
Thanks, Andy.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.